town was quiet, too quiet. Nestled deep within a valley, it was encircled by ancient forests, forests that whispered secrets on the wind, secrets that spoke of things best left undisturbed. The townsfolk knew the stories they always had. Tales whispered by the fire passed down through generations, tales of shadows that moved in the night. Strangers rarely ventured here, and those who did rarely stayed long. Something about the place unsettled them. A palpable sense of dread hung heavy in the air. Lily skipped along the cobblestone path. Her laughter was a rare spark of light in the oppressive gloom. At 10 years old, she was oblivious to the darkness that clung to the town. Her innocence was a shield, protecting her from the horrors that lurked beneath the surface. But the shadows had a way of creeping in. They danced at the edge of her vision, whispered her name when the wind blew. Lily would often pause, a shiver running down her spine. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. The house loomed over the town, a Gothic monstrosity of crumbling stone and shadowed windows. Its silhouette against the stormy sky was like something out of a nightmare. Gargoyles leered from the eaves, their expressions twisted and grotesque. Their stone eyes seemed to follow Lily's every move. The air around the house crackled with an unseen energy, a palpable sense of menace that sent shivers down Lily's spine. Inside, the house was dark and oppressive. The air was thick with the scent of decay and something else, something ancient and unsettling. Dust motes danced in the weak rays of sunlight that filtered through the grimy windows. Lily loved her grandmother dearly, but there was something about the old woman that unnerved her. A knowing glint in her eyes, a hint of something ancient and powerful lurking beneath her frail exterior. She spoke in riddles and rhymes, her voice a low, soothing rasp that sent shivers down Lily's spine.
This has been passed down through generations. Cherish it, my dear.
One stormy afternoon, her grandmother presented Lily with a gift. In her hands, she held a porcelain doll. Its glassy eyes seemed to stare right through Lily. The doll was exquisite. Clad in a frilly blue dress, its delicate porcelain skin was flawless. Lily spent hours playing with Clara. She dressed her in miniature gowns, crafted tiny teacups from acorns, and wove stories of princesses and dragons around her porcelain friend. The doll quickly became a confidant, her painted smile a constant in Lily's world.
The touch of Clara's smooth, cold skin against my hand was comforting at first. The delicate weight of the doll in my arms, the rustle of her lace dress, all served to solidify Clara's presence in my life. I took Clara everywhere, my small hand clutching the doll's fragile porcelain one.
Lily confided in Clara, whispering secrets to the doll as if it were a living being. The secrets of a child, filled with dreams and fears, were poured into Clara's unjudging presence. Sleep, once a sanctuary, became a battlefield. Lily would toss and turn, her dreams invaded by fleeting images of Clara's face, the painted smile twisted into a grotesque leer. The whispers of the wind seemed to morph into Clara's voice, murmuring unintelligible words that sent shivers down her spine.
I woke with a gasp, my heart pounding against my ribs like a trapped bird. The room was always cold, the air thick with an unseen presence. My eyes darted to where Clara lay on the bedside table, the moonlight reflecting off the doll's glassy eyes, giving them an unnatural gleam.
Lily tried to shake off the unsettling feeling. She told herself it was just her imagination, fueled by her grandmother's stories and the oppressive atmosphere of the old house. But deep down, a seed of doubt had been planted. Lily's unease grew, wrapping around her like a shroud. The feeling intensified whenever she was near the attic door, a forbidding oak barrier at the end of the upstairs hallway. It was always locked, the key nowhere to be found.
My grandmother had warned me to never go near the attic. Some doors, she'd said, her voice raspy and low, are best left unopened. Some secrets are best left buried. But my curiosity, always a relentless force, gnawed at me. The attic, in my mind, became a symbol of the unknown, a repository of secrets both fascinating and terrifying.
She imagined dusty trunks filled with forgotten treasures, cobwebs shimmering with a sinister beauty.
Lily's hand trembled as she reached for the doorknob. It was cold to the touch, sending a shiver down her spine. She hesitated, a wave of dizziness washing over her. the scent of dust and decay seeming to seep from under the door.
As she turned the knob, a floorboard creaked beneath her foot, echoing in the silence of the house like a gunshot. The sound broke the spell that held her captive, and her hand recoiled from the door as if it had burned her. She turned and ran, her bare feet slapping against the wooden floor. The image of Clara's painted eyes, wide and knowing, burned into her mind. She couldn't shake the feeling that the doll had seen her, had been expecting her.
That night, as Lily lay in bed, her body trembling beneath the covers, she could have sworn she felt a cold breath on her cheek.
Lily couldn't shake the image of Clara's face from her mind. The way the doll's painted smile seemed to shift and distort in the moonlight, morphing from a look of innocent joy to something cold and calculating. It was as if a mask had slipped, revealing the true nature of the doll, lurking beneath its delicate porcelain exterior. She started noticing other subtle changes in Clara's demeanor. The way the doll's head would tilt slightly as if listening to a conversation only she could hear. The way her glassy eyes seemed to follow Lily's every move, tracking her movements with an unnerving intensity. The once comforting weight of the doll in her arms now felt oppressive, a constant reminder of the growing unease that gnawed at the edges of Lily's mind. The rustle of Clara's lace dress, once a soothing sound, now set her teeth on edge like the whisper of a threat carried on the wind. One afternoon, Lily decided to confide in her grandmother. She approached the old woman cautiously, her heart pounding in her chest. The words caught in her throat, fear choking off her voice. How could she possibly explain the unexplainable, the creeping sense of dread that clung to her like a shadow?
Grandmother, I need to talk to you about Clara. Something doesn't feel right.
Her grandmother listened patiently, her gaze unwavering, a knowing glint in her aged eyes. When Lily finished speaking, the old woman simply smiled, a sad, knowing smile that sent shivers down Lily's spine.
Clara is just a doll, darling.
She picked up Clara from the bedside table. The doll's weight surprisingly heavy in her arms. She held her breath, half expecting Clara to come alive, to lash out with unexpected fury. But the doll remained still, her painted smile mocking Lily's fear. Lily crept out of her room, her bare feet silent on the wooden floor. She made her way down the hallway, the whispers of the wind seeming to follow her, urging her on. The old house creaked and groaned around her, as if it were a living thing, aware of her every move. She reached the end of the hallway and stopped before the attic door. The air around it felt cold, charged with an unseen energy. Dozens of porcelain dolls, their faces frozen in various expressions of joy, sorrow, and anger, lined the shelves that ran the length of the attic walls. Their glassy eyes seemed to follow Lily's every move, their painted smiles taking on a sinister quality in the dim light. Lily gasped, her hand flying to her mouth to stifle a scream. She had stumbled upon a secret, a hidden room filled with the discarded remnants of her grandmother's past. But these weren't just any dolls. These were Clara's predecessors, their lifeless eyes staring out from the shadows, their porcelain faces frozen in time. Lily felt a cold shiver run down her spine as she realized the truth. Clara was just the latest in a long line of dolls, each one imbued with a dark purpose.
As Lily stood there, paralyzed by fear, she noticed something strange about the dolls. Each one was clutching a small porcelain doll in its hands, a miniature replica of itself. And etched into the base of each doll in delicate, spidery handwriting was a single word: forever.
Lily's blood ran cold as she realized the horrifying truth. These dolls weren't just toys. They were vessels, containers for something ancient and evil, something that could never truly die. And Clara was no different. She had been chosen, marked as the next in line to carry the curse, and there was nothing she could do to stop it.
Lily stumbled back, her hands shaking as she fumbled for the doorknob.
Clara's grip tightened on Lily's wrist, her porcelain fingers cold and unyielding.
Lily tried to pull away, her heart pounding against her ribs like a frantic bird. But Clara held fast, her strength inhuman, her grip like a vice. "Let me go!" Lily cried, her voice a choked whisper that echoed in the stillness of the attic. "Please, Clara, I don't want to play anymore."
But Clara didn't move. She stood there, her porcelain face expressionless, her eyes boring into Lily's with an intensity that sent shivers down her spine. The other dolls lining the shelves seemed to press closer, their glassy eyes watching the scene unfold with an air of morbid fascination.
Lily struggled against Clara's grip, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Fear, cold and sharp, coursed through her veins, paralyzing her with its intensity. She had stumbled upon a power far greater than she could have ever imagined, a power that seemed to emanate from the very walls of the old house.
Clara's grip tightened, her porcelain fingers digging into Lily's flesh. A sharp pain shot up Lily's arm and she cried out, tears streaming down her face. She was trapped, caught in a nightmare from which there seemed to be no escape.
Lily's eyes darted around the attic, searching for an escape, a weapon, anything that could help her break free from Clara's grasp. But the room offered no solace, only the silent judgment of the watching dolls and the oppressive weight of the unseen force that held her captive. "Grandma!" Lily cried out, her voice hoarse with fear. "Help me, please, Grandma, I'm scared!"
But her grandmother's voice, usually so quick to soothe and reassure, was absent. The only sound that greeted Lily's plea was the soft whisper of the wind as it snaked its way through the cracks in the attic windows, carrying with it the scent of rain and decay. Lily's shoulders slumped in defeat. She was alone, utterly alone, at the mercy of a force she didn't understand and couldn't control. Clara's grip on her wrist was a constant reminder of her powerlessness, a tangible symbol of the darkness that had seeped into her life.
"Please," Lily whimpered, her voice barely audible above the sound of her own ragged breathing. "What do you want from me?"
Clara tilted her head, her glassy eyes narrowing slightly as if considering Lily's question. Then, slowly, deliberately, she leaned in close, her porcelain face inches from Lily's.
You already know the answer, Lily, Clara whispered, her voice a chilling rasp that seemed to slither into Lily's very soul. It's in your blood. It's in this house. It's in every breath you take.
Lily recoiled from the coldness of Clara's breath, her heart pounding against her ribs like a trapped bird. She didn't understand what Clara meant, didn't want to understand. All she knew was that she was terrified, more terrified than she had ever been in her life.
"I don't understand," Lily stammered, her voice trembling. "What are you talking about?"
Clara smiled, a slow, predatory smile that sent shivers down Lily's spine.
This house, she whispered, gesturing towards the shadows that clung to the corners of the attic, holds many secrets, Lily. Secrets that have been passed down through generations, secrets that are now yours to keep.
Lily shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "I don't want any secrets," she sobbed. "I just want to go home."
Clara's smile widened, revealing a row of tiny, sharp teeth that glinted in the dim light.
You are home, Lily, she hissed. This house is your home now, and we, you and I, are bound together, forever.
Panic surged through Lily, threatening to overwhelm her. She had to escape, had to get away from Clara and the suffocating darkness of the attic. But Clara's grip on her wrist remained unyielding, her porcelain fingers cold and strong.
"Mom, Dad, help me, please, someone help me."
Lily thought of her parents, of their warm smiles and reassuring voices. They would know what to do, how to break the spell that held her captive. But they were downstairs, oblivious to her plight, separated from her by a thick veil of ignorance and denial. Her cries were met with silence, swallowed by the thick walls of the old house. The attic seemed to press in on her, suffocating her with its weight of secrets and despair. Lily slumped against Clara, her body racked with sobs. She was trapped, alone and afraid, with no one to turn to for help. The realization hit her like a physical blow, stealing her breath and leaving her gasping for air. Clara watched her with cold, calculating eyes, her porcelain face a mask of indifference. She had won. Lily was hers now, bound to her by a force that transcended time and reason.
Listen to me, Lily. We can help each other. You and I, we can be strong together.
Lily looked up at Clara, her eyes wide and unblinking. She didn't trust her, not anymore, but she was desperate, and Clara was the only one who seemed to offer a way out of the darkness that had enveloped her.
"What do you mean?"
Clara smiled, her porcelain lips curling into a cruel parody of a smile.
I can give you power, Lily. Power beyond your wildest dreams. But in return, you must give me your loyalty, your obedience, your soul.
Lily hesitated, her mind reeling. The offer was tempting, seductive even, but deep down, a voice warned her that it was a trap, a Faustian bargain that would cost her everything she held dear.
Do we have an agreement, Lily?
Clara's voice took on a steely edge. Lily looked into Clara's eyes, into the depths of their cold, calculating gaze. She knew that if she said yes, her life would never be the same. But she also knew that she had no other choice. She was trapped, and Clara held the key to her freedom.
Yes, I agree.
And with that single word, a pact was sealed, a bond forged in darkness and despair that would bind Lily and Clara together for eternity. Lily ran. She didn't look back. The feel of Clara's cold, porcelain hand on her skin sent a jolt of terror through her. The attic door slammed shut behind her, the sound echoing in the silence of the old house like a death knell. Tears streamed down her face, blurring her vision, but she didn't dare slow down. She could hear Clara's voice echoing in her mind, whispering promises and threats, but she pushed it away, focusing on putting as much distance between herself and the attic as possible. The old house seemed to conspire against her, the floorboards creaking ominously beneath her feet, the shadows stretching and contorting as if alive. She burst out of the house and into the night, the cool air stinging her lungs. The moon, hidden behind a veil of clouds, offered little comfort, casting long, eerie shadows that danced and writhed at the edge of her vision. She didn't know where she was going, only that she had to get away, had to escape the suffocating darkness that had closed in around her. Lily ran until her lungs burned and her legs screamed for mercy. She stumbled and fell, scraping her knees on the rough ground, but she didn't stop, couldn't stop. The image of Clara's cold, calculating eyes, the memory of her touch, propelled her forward. Lily's father found her huddled beneath a willow tree, her body racked with sobs. He gathered her into his arms, his heart breaking at the sight of his daughter, so small and vulnerable, consumed by a fear he couldn't comprehend.
I'd been searching for hours, my worry growing with each passing moment. Lily's mother had dismissed her claims of a haunted doll as nothing more than a child's overactive imagination, but I'd seen the fear in her eyes, a fear that ran deeper than any childish nightmare. "It's okay, Lily. Daddy's here now. You're safe."
But even as he spoke the words, a part of him doubted their truth. The old house had always held an unsettling presence, a darkness that seemed to seep into the very bones of those who dared to cross its threshold. And now, looking into his daughter's tear-stained face, he feared that darkness had claimed her. He carried her back to the house, her small body trembling against his chest. Lily's mother met them at the door, her face etched with a mixture of relief and annoyance. But when she saw the look in her husband's eyes, a look of raw, primal fear, her own facade crumbled.
What's wrong? What happened?
"We need to get rid of it. We need to get rid of that doll."
The flames danced and crackled, consuming the doll in their fiery embrace. Lily watched from a safe distance, her hand clasped tightly in her father's, her body still trembling from the encounter in the attic.
I insisted on burning Clara. It was the only way, I'd said, to be sure she was truly gone.
Lily's mother had protested, arguing that it was just a doll, that it couldn't possibly be the source of their daughter's terror. But one look at Lily's face, pale and etched with a fear that seemed to emanate from her very core, had been enough to silence her objections. As the flames licked at Clara's porcelain skin, Lily couldn't help but feel a twinge of guilt. Clara had been her friend, her confidant, however twisted and corrupted their relationship had become, but the fear that gripped her heart, the memory of the doll's cold, calculating eyes, outweighed any lingering affection. The fire burned for hours, consuming Clara's porcelain body, her lace dress, her glassy eyes. Lily watched as the flames died down, leaving behind only a pile of ashes and the lingering scent of smoke. A strange sense of emptiness settled over her, a void where her fear and fascination with Clara had once resided. Night fell, and a heavy silence descended upon the house. Lily lay in bed, her parents on either side of her, their presence a reassuring weight in the darkness. The events of the day played out in her mind like a macabre film, each scene more unsettling than the last.
The fire had cleansed the air, but it hadn't erased the memories, the whispers of fear that still lingered in the shadows. I could still feel Clara's presence, faint but undeniable, like the echo of a scream in the dead of night.
She closed her eyes, trying to block out the images that flashed behind her eyelids. Clara's cold porcelain face, her glassy, watchful eyes, her cruel, knowing smile. But the harder she tried to forget, the more vivid the memories became, taunting her with their persistence. The whispers started subtly, soft at first, like the rustling of leaves outside her window. But as the night wore on, they grew louder, more insistent, slithering into her mind, wrapping around her thoughts like icy tendrils. She could hear her name being whispered over and over again, a chorus of voices both familiar and strange. The sound sent shivers down her spine, raising goosebumps on her arms despite the warmth of her parents' bodies pressed against hers. Lily's grandmother arrived the next morning, her face etched with concern. She held a package wrapped in brown paper, tied with a faded blue ribbon.
I'm so sorry, dear. I should have warned you.
Lily stared at the package, her heart pounding. She didn't want to open it, but something compelled her to untie the ribbon. As the paper fell away, Lily gasped. Inside was a porcelain doll. It was identical to Clara, down to the last detail. Lily recoiled, trembling with terror, but her grandmother simply smiled, a sad, knowing smile.
But we burned her.
Lily's breath caught in her throat. Her eyes, wide with terror, darted between the doll and her grandmother. The new doll, a chilling replica of Clara, lay cradled in the worn fabric of the box.
But we burned her.
The memory of the flames consuming Clara flashed before her eyes. Yet here she was, back from the dead, her painted smile as chillingly innocent as ever. Her grandmother's smile widened, the lines around her eyes crinkling with ancient knowledge. Lily's parents exchanged uneasy glances. Their faces, etched with confusion and growing alarm, reflected their struggle to comprehend the situation. The burning of Clara had been their attempt to regain control.
What does this mean?
We thought we got rid of it.
Yet, here it was again, staring back at them with its cold porcelain eyes. The look on their daughter's face, the terror that twisted her features, told them otherwise. And as they looked at their daughter, her small body trembling with fear, they knew their lives would never be the same. Lily, unable to tear her gaze away from the doll, felt a cold dread creep into her bones. The whispers, once faint echoes in the back of her mind, now swirled around her, louder and more insistent than ever before.
Who's there?
She could hear her name being called, soft and seductive, promising power and belonging. The air itself seemed to crackle with an unseen energy, a palpable sense of menace that sent shivers down her spine. The doll's eyes, those glassy, lifeless orbs, seemed to follow her every move, reflecting a depth of knowledge that chilled her to the core. Lily was trapped, caught in a web of fear and fascination that tightened its hold with every passing moment. She tried to focus on her parents, on the familiar comfort of their presence, but even their love and concern couldn't penetrate the growing darkness that surrounded her. It was as if an invisible barrier had been erected, separating her from the world she knew, from the life she once had. The whispers intensified, weaving their way into her thoughts, promising to reveal the secrets hidden within the walls of the old house. Secrets that had been passed down through generations, secrets that were now hers to keep. Lily's laughter, once a source of joy, now echoed through the halls like a mournful cry. The shadows clung to her like a second skin, whispering secrets of darkness.
Why can't I escape?
The doll, a reminder of the pact, sat on her bedside table, its smile a source of unease. Lily couldn't escape its gaze, always feeling watched and judged. She had become a prisoner in her own home, forever intertwined with the doll's presence.